Francis Ngannou is open to returning to the UFC. Now, let me tell you this right now. This could either be some of the best UFC news we've heard all year, or this could end up biting us in the behind, man. I've never said that in my life. But anyway, this could possibly end up turning south, I guess you could say, because the UFC could possibly try to book a super fight and the wrong super fight at that. Which I'm not going to sit here and say that this is not a super fight because it is. But Jon Jones wants to fight Francis Ngannou. He's made that clear. Well, he says that he does until it's time to actually fight him. He goes into hibernation. But Francis Ngannou has also stated that he wants to fight Jon Jones. Now, this all depends on Dana White and his stubbornness because Dana White and Francis Ngannou kind of parted on bad terms. So we'll have to see how all of that goes. But guys, I will not be surprised if the UFC tries to book Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou. And this is still a sick fight. But this is sort of similar to Jones versus Stipe, which not to that extent. But Jones versus Ngannou was a super fight 4 years ago. Both of these guys are pushing 40 years old, both of them out of their prime. Yes, Ngannou looked great in his last performance, but still, we have an interim champion that is sitting there with the interim title, trying to fight for the undisputed title, and the undisputed champion doesn't want to fight. Now, if this fight gets booked, I'm not going to be mad at the matchup, but if this fight gets booked, it better not be for the undisputed heavyweight title. Because this would be the ultimate disrespect to Tom Aspinall. And dude, the best thing that the UFC could do is book this fight. I know you're not going to get the viewership of Jones and Ngannou. It's just not going to happen. You're going to get a lot of viewers just for the sole aspect of Ngannou returning to the UFC, if this is true, by the way. But guys, Aspinall versus Ngannou, this is a fight that I think Tom Aspinall genuinely wins. And the UFC has done such a poor job of pushing their heavyweight champion. Let's be honest here. Nobody knows who Tom Aspinall is outside of the UFC. Maybe, he's that guy that wants to fight Jon Jones. Yes, he's much more than that. He's the best heavyweight we've possibly ever seen in UFC history. But this is perfect. If Jon Jones wants to sit out on the sideline, let's bring Francis Ngannou over and let Tom Aspinall fight Francis Ngannou for the undisputed title. Now, is the UFC going to go this route? Probably not. This one makes the most sense to me because Francis Ngannou versus Tom Aspinall is going to sell a lot of pay-per-views regardless because Ngannou's a big star. Everybody outside of the UFC knows Francis Ngannou. You know, he's got one-punch knockout power, man. He hits harder than a Ford truck. But this is a sick fight. The heavyweight division is so lackluster right now. We have Tom Aspinall and the rest of the competition because I'm not going to count Jones. It's Tom Aspinall up here, and then it's a big drop-off to the next heavyweight contender. But there's not a true number one contender right now. You could say Ciryl Gane, who's coming off a robbery win over Volkov. So let's let Ciryl Gane fight Gelton Almeida, maybe. Or maybe you do Volkov versus Almeida, let Ciryl Gane fight somebody else. But if Francis Ngannou is legit coming over, let's do Francis Ngannou versus Tom Aspinall. I know Dana White's not going to want to strip Jon Jones because they got something going on, something deeper than just a friendship going on behind the scenes. But Francis Ngannou versus Tom Aspinall is a sick fight. But Jon Jones can enjoy his retirement, his half retirement as he calls it, 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out. He can do whatever he wants. He says he wants 6 months to prepare for Aspinall. So how about in those 6 months of preparation, we book Tom Aspinall versus Francis Ngannou? It's a win-win for everybody. I know Jon Jones would feel a little bit left out if he got stripped. I know he would. He's going to act like he wouldn't. He would. But this is going to help you, Jon. Tom Aspinall versus Francis Ngannou. Jon Jones, if you want to come back, you can fight the winner. I don't care. You're not going to fight a number one contenders fight. That's not realistic at all. I'm not saying that. But if you want to hold up the division, yeah, go ahead and hold up the division, but relinquish the belt. Because we're about to make Tom Aspinall versus Francis Ngannou for the undisputed heavyweight title. And Jon Jones, you can fight the winner. You can finally get your Jon Jones versus Ngannou fight that you've been wanting, that Francis has been wanting, that everybody's been wanting, if Ngannou beats Tom Aspinall. If Tom Aspinall beats Francis Ngannou, you now have more film on Tom Aspinall. You know you're a big film guy, Jon Jones. loves watching film on his fighters. He feels like he doesn't have much film on Tom Aspinall. That's because Tom Aspinall gets everybody out of there in the first round. No hate to him. But Jon Jones, you get more prep time. You get more film. This is everything that you say that you want. So let's book Francis Ngannou versus Tom Aspinall. Now, again, is the UFC going to do this? Probably not. If Francis Ngannou comes over, I know he's going to want to fight Jon Jones. At least I think. Maybe he wants to fight Tom Aspinall. That's what I would hope. I think it would be the funniest thing. The UFC has the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever. Would be to strip Jon Jones, let Francis Ngannou fight Tom Aspinall. But if Francis Ngannou actually does come over, I don't think he's going to be ready right away. I don't think you can put him into a heavyweight championship fight right now. I just don't think he's ready. He's got some other stuff going on. So, I know we've talked about it over and over and over. It's getting kind of old. But this is the only move that you make right now, today, to get the heavyweight division rolling outside of stripping Jon Jones, which works as well. You could strip Jon Jones, do Aspinall versus Gane. That works. That's fine. Obviously, I'd rather see this. Everybody would rather see Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall for the undisputed heavyweight title. And this way, you can kind of get things sorted out in the heavyweight division. You know, Gane can get another win. Francis Ngannou, if he comes over to the UFC, I can just about guarantee you he's going to be fighting for the title right away. And I'm perfectly fine with that. He's a big star in the sport. There's, again, there's not a heavyweight contender that has truly earned a title fight, in my opinion. So I'm fine with that. So if we can actually get some negotiations going, if Dana can put his pride to the side and get Ngannou over to the UFC, in the meantime, bro, let us do Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones. At least let Tom Aspinall fight somebody. And if he fights somebody, if it happens to be Cyril Gane, please let it be for the undisputed title. I just know. You cannot tell me Dana White is not thinking in the back of his head, he wants Jon Jones with the title. The UFC just seems to be in a better place with Jon Jones with the title. That's not true. I don't believe it to be true. But again, he's trying to sign a deal with Netflix. If Ngannou actually comes over, that's going to be used to hold some leverage over a potential signing, I believe. Because Jones versus Ngannou is a super fight. It is a super fight. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's not. But I would rather see Aspinall with the title. If you want to book that super fight, bro, just give Aspinall the title. Do Ngannou versus Jones as a legacy fight with no belt on the line. I don't know, man. I feel like it could actually sell the same amount of pay-per-views whether the heavyweight title was on the line or not. Like I said, it's a legacy fight. Even though both of them, you know, maybe they're not sitting on their deathbed like Stipe was, but they're pushing 40. But in reality, what is the UFC going to do with Francis Ngannou? Again, it's not official that he's returning to the UFC. I'm not even going to get my hopes up. Again, there's some beef with him and Dana, I guess, so to speak. But also, we don't know if Francis Ngannou is going to fight again. I hope he does. I hope he does make the jump back to the UFC. But in reality, is it going to happen? Probably not. And Jon Jones is probably going to stay holding the title, holding up the division until UFC gets a deal signed. And I really think the UFC is going to book Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane. The only thing that I hope that they don't do, I'm okay with the matchup, bro, at this point. I just want to see Tom Aspinall in there fighting. But please don't make it for the interim title. On the off chance, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I don't think it would happen at all. But if Cyril Gane happened to defeat Tom Aspinall in an interim title fight, like what? Cyril Gane is now the interim champion. Jon Jones is the undisputed champion. Come on, bro. But that's my thoughts on it. If Ngannou does return, I'm not going to lie. This is the fight that I want to see. I want to see Tom Aspinall versus Francis Ngannou. This is a way to push your star. Finally push Tom Aspinall into stardom, especially if he beats Francis Ngannou. It just hypes up a fight between Aspinall and Jones a lot more. But this is the fight I want to see the most. Aspinall versus Ngannou. It's a very intriguing matchup. And Jon Jones can fight the winner. But that's going to be it for me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know if you think Ngannou is returning. And let me know what you think the heavyweight division should do if Francis Ngannou returns. But y'all go ahead and hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. And hit that bell, man. Turn the post notifications on. Because we're live streaming, man. And you do not want to miss a live stream. But once again, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. And we out.